Hello, Danielle. Nice to see you. There we go. Okay, so we will get started today. We're going to have a little bit there we go, of a shorter session. And we will go over a trauma-informed approach to breathwork that we use in the Integrative Nervous System Practitioner Program and how we can kind of implement breath-based interventions from a nervous system friendly standpoint. So there's a lot of talk about breathwork. Um, on social media. It's become pretty popular over the last couple years. And there's a lot of different styles of breath work out there. And a lot of them do focus on more of this kind of catharsis, this kind of big emotional release. And not saying that's inherently good or bad, just when we take a step back and we look at it from more of a nervous system based standpoint, we want to be careful about pushing people towards extreme levels of that sympathetic activation, right? Going into that fight or flight level of their nervous system. So a lot of times, those styles of breath work that where you will see online the person going into more of a cathartic event, um, is because they're stimulating the sympathetic nervous system and it's causing them to go into some sort of emotional processing. Sometimes there's trauma processing, sometimes memories will come up in that process. And again, it's not necessarily inherently a bad thing, but there's kind of a certain way to go about this when we are approaching it from a nervous system friendly approach rather than just how big of an emotional release can I get this person to have. Okay. So today we're going to take a little bit look at how we could potentially approach using the breath with clients or presenting it to whoever we may be working with or for ourselves as well. And another note I'll make just before jumping into the exercises themselves is that sometimes when we're working from more of that nervous system based framework or trauma informed framework, we'll get clients who are dealing with anxiety. They're dealing, maybe they have a diagnosis of something like post-traumatic stress disorder. They're dealing with a lot of chronic pain and symptoms. These people will usually already be in more of a sympathetic activation or sometimes more of that freeze state, right? That's between the sympathetic and the collapse state. And sometimes when we ask these people or these patients or clients to focus on their breath or to start to manipulate their breath, at first that will actually be triggering for them. So we don't want to panic and say, oh my gosh, we can never talk about the breath with this person, or this person should never do a breathing exercise. On the contrary, they actually need to develop more capacity in their nervous system to be able to do that. But we have to do it in a way that builds capacity to be with that sensation of focusing on the breath or altering the rhythm of the breath, for example. So we need to be evaluating that and we need to be kind of prepared to understand, maybe we can't start just working on the breath with this person because right now it seems like it's actually aggravating them. It's actually making them more anxious, more activated in their system. Part of the reason for that, if we remember, for those of us who are in the integrative nervous system practitioner program, is because they have an interoception, right? So that part of your body that's looking at internal sensations like your heart rate, your breathing rate, internal areas of tension. Their interoception is kind of hyper, it's in hyper vigilance, it's in hyper alert. So they are going to be really, really reactive to any sort of sensation in the body. Anytime maybe they can feel their heartbeat, or anytime they tune into their breath, that is kind of signaling an alarm signal in their brain stem and in their nervous system. So that is usually the reason why these types of clients and patients might, not always, but they might have a hard time tuning into their breath at first. Okay. So today, what I want to do is I want to present to you kind of a sequence that you can try for yourself, of course, but then you could potentially use part of the sequence or the whole sequence if you do want to work with your clients on a breath-based level, but in a way that is trauma-informed and a way that is more taking into account the entirety of the nervous system, and not just, okay, what can I do with the breath to kind of get the largest emotional response or the largest cathartic event ever. Okay. So yeah, before we go into that sequence, do we have any questions or comments that we want to address? Are we okay to jump in? Okay. Okay, perfect. So we will go ahead and jump in. So in this case, we're going to start with just a little bit of a check-in. We're going to, if it feels comfortable, we can go ahead and close our eyes. We can feel the support from the chair we're sitting on, or if we're laying down, we can feel our spine supported. We can feel our sit bones supported. And we just want to first drop in and check in on our body and how it's showing up today. So with this, we first tune into our toes, our feet, and our ankles. And if we need to bring any movement in here, that's always welcome. We're trying to bring ourselves in deeper connection and awareness with our body. We want to go up to the shins and the calves. And again, if you feel like you want to massage there or you want to move there, you can go for that. And as we're scanning, we're just noticing what's happening in this part of our body. Is it kind of pleasant, neutral? Is there increased sensation or tension? Or is there maybe a lack of sensation? And then we're also going up to our knees. If we want to make contact with the knees, we can do that. Coming into the thighs, the upper part of the leg. Again, just noticing what's happening there. Not necessarily intervening, just the effort to be with the body, the effort to see what's going on, to come into the body. Looking at the hips and the pelvis as well. We need to bring any movement. We might rock back and forth on the pelvis or from side to side. We might move the hips if we need to, and we're in a position where we want to move the hips. We might circle a little bit or sway back and forth. Just notice what's there. A lot of sensation, a lot of tension or neutrality. Maybe it even feels good. It feels relaxed. Sometimes we just don't feel very connected at all. Coming into the abdomen and the lower back. Coming into the ribs. Feel free to put our hands there if we need to put our hands there. The chest, where we find the collarbones, we find the heart. If we want to add any contact there, we can do that as well. We might add in some movements to the shoulder as we come up. We bring our awareness to the shoulders, the arms, all the way to those fingers, those hands, and we can bring any movement in there that feels good, that helps us be more present with our body. We notice if there is kind of a comfortable level of activation in our system being with stillness in the body, or if we feel also this urge to kind of fidget or this urge to move, or this urge to collapse in on ourselves. This is all information about the state of our nervous system. And then from there, we might go up to the neck and the throat. We might put a hand there if we need to, send our awareness there. Coming into the jaw. If we need to open and close our mouth, we can do that. Maybe massage a little bit on the jaw area. To come into it, we can also tap on the jaw. Okay, come in, bring our awareness to the eyes, to the eyebrows, the forehead, and notice again level of tension, neutrality. Maybe I can't really feel that area. What's going on there? And finally, coming up to the crown of the head and noticing what are the sensations there as well. I might make contact as well. And after I feel like I've checked in with my body and I've realized um, my level of, where maybe what areas of my body feel more activated, more tense, more of a need kind of fidget and move. What areas feel more neutral, maybe more relaxed. And if there's any areas that I have a hard time connecting to, or I feel a little bit distant from, and just kind of taking in that information. We're going to take a second to come into contact with the breath as much as it feels comfortable, noticing my inhale, where it starts, where it goes up to, noticing my exhale. And if there's maybe a brief pause in between those two, I might take into account, am I holding my breath? Is there an area of restriction in the breathing pathway? And if that is the case, maybe I just put a hand on the part of my body where I feel that like the breath is getting a little bit stuck. And I maybe just invite a little bit of an opening there. And then from there, I want to just do a quick little check-in on, sensation in my body. I looked at the breath in my body. Are there any emotions that I perceive in my body right now? Do I perceive a certain level of frustration, a certain level of anxiety? Do I perceive maybe more of a calming, maybe more of a presence, maybe more of a gratitude or a joy? Maybe it's a mix of these, right? Both could be present. Or maybe I am in a different state and I'm perceiving more of a stuckness or more of emotions that feel kind of lost or negative in nature. And all of it's welcome. It's just kind of noticing what's here right now, detaching ourselves a little bit from that, just noticing what's here and using those cues from the body and the breath to inform us of what emotions are present. And finally, when we feel like we have a read on that, we'll go up to the thoughts. And we'll just take a little look at what's going on with those thoughts, either here, present, and now with our breath, with our body. Are they more off in the future, planning, worrying? Are they in the past, maybe remembering? Or did the thoughts feel really kind of dissociated and detached from my body and my reality? That's worth noting as well. Says something about our nervous system state. Okay. So just take a second to kind of take in all of this information of how is my body, how's my breath, any emotions that are present right now, any thoughts, and give yourself a minute to kind of check in on what nervous system state you're kind of coming into this this exercise or this session in. And for those of you that are not familiar or maybe forgot exactly what that kind of model looks like, we can take a second to remind ourselves that if we're feeling more ease, more neutrality in the body, comfortable with stillness, more emotions in the present moment, more groundedness, openness, we're falling a little bit more into that green category, that ventral vagal. If we're feeling a little bit more of the frustration, the anxiety, the urgency, maybe we see in our body this desire to move. We notice more areas of tension in the body, more areas of holding, and thoughts that might not be completely present here and now. They might be more future-based or kind of ruminating on the past. We might be finding ourselves more in sympathetic. And we have to remember that there's this state called freeze, which is really this green or this gray dotted line between the red and the blue, where we hit that overwhelm point. And we feel a lot of the anxiety and the sympathetic activation, but we start also feeling a little bit of tones of this shutdown, of a little bit of an overwhelm. Sometimes it's a desire to kind of throw in the towel, kind of trapped, kind of stuck energy. And we might see our body going into a little bit more of a limpness, a collapse state, maybe more shallow breathing. Um, Maybe the thoughts even start to become more negative and or maybe more disconnected, right? And the final stage we can get to is more of this collapse, which is where we do go into more of that shame, more of that numbness, more of this hopelessness. And in the body, we often see that expression of really shallow breath. Sometimes we even have like a completely lack of an exhale. Um, in the body, we see a lot of the collapsing in over the chest. Maybe we don't feel very connected to several areas of our body when we're in this state because we're in more of a numbness. And our thoughts can feel kind of disconnected from our reality or a little bit more of hopelessness. Okay, so again, we don't want to identify with these states because it doesn't mean anything about us. We're humans and we flow through these states. But just kind of take a second to use that information you took in to just be honest with yourself about where am I kind of landing today and understanding that there's levels. It can be, I am a lot in green, but there's a little bit of a shade of sympathetic there. Okay, that's okay. Or it could be, I am feeling more red and sympathetic, but I notice that there is little aspects of frozenness in my body and my breath and my emotional state. Okay, so just kind of getting a tab there on what's going on. Um, and with that, before we go into particular breathwork exercises or breathing exercises, we're going to take a minute to resource ourselves, and make sure we're feeling like we're in a good place to do this. And I would encourage you to do this before um, doing extended breathwork exercises or sessions with clients or patients, and to use these sorts of exercises before we introduce a lot of manipulation of just purely the breath itself. These exercises that we're going to do right now are kind of our foundational resources that are very safe and applicable to any nervous system. And it's good to start with those and see how a person responds before throwing breath techniques at them and just kind of seeing what happens. These ones are kind of a safer bet. Okay, so we're going to take a second to kind of come back into our body, come back into our own experience here. And the first thing we're going to do is practice something called orienting. And orienting is using our eyes to take them off the screen for a second and just let our eyes walk around the room. I often say, let your eyes take your neck for a walk. Okay, and pick 4 or 5 points around the room. If there's a window, we can look out the window. It's good to look behind both your shoulders as much as you can, gently. Okay. And then when you're ready, you've walked around the room with your eyes enough, you'll come back to the screen and you'll just do a little reset here. You'll rub your palms together and then you'll use those hands to cover the eyes for 2 or 3 breaths, 2 or 3 inhale and exhales. Okay, and then you'll just kind of come back into your experience here. Kind of reorient, soften the eyes a little bit. I often give the cue of imagine you see your pet or your child or someone you love walking towards you. How would your eyes express that? And you can kind of notice this softening of the eyes and the muscles there because those are highly connected to your sympathetic nervous system. So orienting is good because for those who are in red zone and sympathetic, it helps them down regulate. But it's also good for those of us who find ourselves a little bit more frozen or dissociated because it brings us back into the experience of the present moment. Okay. And with that, now I will invite to close your eyes again if it feels safe. And we always want to remember that in these situations, in these exercises, when we're working with the nervous system, choosing is more important than doing. So it's more important for me that you choose if you keep your eyes open or closed rather than just blindly following my instructions. For those of us that are practitioners, it's really important that we ingrain this principle in the way we work with clients and patients. Because for those of us who have experienced chronic stress or trauma, the biggest factor there is that kind of control and decision was taken away. So we have to, in these healing experiences, we have to bring it back in. And we have to always offer that idea that, okay, it's great to be able to close your eyes and go into your internal sensations. But if that's feeling too activating for you today, keep a kind of soft gaze at something in front of you. Okay. And we'll go into a little bit of a grounding. So how do we ground? We feel the connection of our sit bones with the chair, any place we're making contact. If our spine is supported, we feel that connection. We allow our body, our structure of our body to surrender to gravity, 10% more, 15% more, whatever our nervous system deems safe today. Surrender 10% more, 15% more, let it go. Sometimes it helps to actually take a moment to kind of clench in, like clench your fist, tighten your shoulders for a second, and then just slowly practice surrendering to gravity, opening up the fist, letting the shoulders fall back down into place, and letting go. If our feet are touching the ground, we can take a moment to feel all the points of the feet that touch the ground. Press into the ground if we need to do that as well. Feel that connection. Bring your conscious awareness to that sensation. And also take a moment to visualize a root that connects you to the earth. For some people, this root will come out of their sacrum. For others, it will come out of the feet. Visualize what your root looks like. That's always keeping you here. It's sustaining you. It's connecting you to the earth as long as you're alive. Visualize that. And I'll invite you to bring in some self-contact here. So self-contact is where it feels good. Try maybe one hand on your chest, by the heart space, one hand on the belly button. And just very gently notice the flow of the breath, how the inhale maybe brings a little bit of a rise of the abdomen, and the exhale, a little bit of a fall. You can press in those hands a little bit more to those areas if it feels good. With our self-contact, we might also just take a moment to put one hand on the forehead and breathe into that for a second. Focus on the contact with the hand and the forehead. Yeah, feel into the temperature, the sensation. What does it feel like? I might put another one at the base of my skull if that feels helpful. Okay, good. Maybe I'll experiment with a little bit of squeezing of my arms so I can start at my wrists and I can just do light squeezes with my hand going up my arm. I always say about 60 or 70% pressure. We're not trying to give ourselves like a deep tissue massage here. We're just trying to give a little bit of a little information to our nervous system through this contact with our skin. Okay, touch is one of the most potent ways to communicate with the nervous system, but it's also a way that a lot of people have experienced trauma, which is why, just like the breath, we have to bring in touch at each person's pace. We have to be able to cue them to monitor their nervous system as they start to bring in touch. And then we'll just do a little bit of this. It's a rub from the elbow to the shoulder. Okay. We're trying different forms of self-contact to allow ourselves to see how our nervous system responds. Perfect. And then as we can keep going with this rubbing if it feels good, or we can pause it. The invitation now is to come into awareness of the breath again. And what we want to do now is start to promote diaphragmatic breathing. So it's helpful to put your hands on your rib cage. Because when we're breathing from our diaphragm, what's going to happen is we're actually going to feel, for example, if I have these fingers touching in the middle around my ribs, when I inhale, they're going to separate naturally without me separating them. And then when I exhale, they're going to come back together. Okay. So again, we're not going to force this. We're just going to try to, can I get a little bit of an activation of my diaphragm? Right now we're breathing in and out of the nose. And it even helps to just tune into that contact with your ribs. Just start to feel if you can feel a little bit of an opening in the ribs and the back when we breathe. And we want to try to go into a regulated rhythm, breathing in and out of the nose. That's really the first step with breath work. So we want to first just start. Let's say if we can inhale for 3, 1, 2, 3, a brief pause, exhale through the nose, 2, 3. Inhale, 2, 3, pause, exhale through the nose, 2, 3. Inhale, 2, 3, exhale through the nose, 2, 3. Inhale, 2, 3. Exhale through the nose, 2, 3. Okay, when I'm doing this, if I feel pretty good with the 3 and 3 rhythm, my client or patient does, I'm going to invite them to come now into a 4, 4 rhythm. So it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, a brief pause. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Good. And we would keep going with that 4-4 rhythm through the nose. So what we're really doing here is we're getting a regulated breath through nasal breathing. What this does is if we practice this over time, it does start to increase our heart rate variability, our HRV, okay, by regulating that inhale and that exhale using the diaphragm and breathing through the nose. And if 4-4 feels good, we can invite the invitation to try 5-5. So that would be an inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Brief pause. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Keep going with that, seeing if we can get maybe even more expansion of the rib cage on the inhale. And we feel that rib cage kind of coming in and closing on the exhale. And we'll keep going with that. And we'll start to play around with the breath a little bit and see how we feel. So again, we always want to give the reminder that this is all an invitation. Nothing is required, nothing is mandatory. And if you ever feel overwhelmed, you can choose to stop a practice. Okay, we also bring in the premise of containment, which is this idea that you also have decision and control over what comes up. So if there's thoughts that come up, memories that come up that are not ideal for this moment right now, that are not meant to be processed right now, that you don't feel you would like to bring into the moment right now, you can put them into a box or a locker. Visualize this. Okay, this is a tool that I give to all my clients and that we want to offer as well to start to learn this principle about choosing again. Even if maybe a sort of obsessive thought comes up or a memory I don't really want to work with right now comes up, I can choose to put that in the box for now and come back to it at a later time. And bringing in that visual is often helpful. Okay, so that's just a little invitation for you all. Now, what I'll do, I'm going to put on, just see if I can share a little bit of music as we're just going to go into about a 10 to 12 minute sequence of a couple different breathing exercises. So let me see if I'm able to share my sound with you guys. Okay. Good. We're all set there. So what we'll do is for this first exercise, again, you can close eyes, you can have eyes open, whatever feels most supportive right now. We're going to inhale through the nose, first counting to 3. And we're going to exhale through the mouth, counting to 6. When we exhale, we want to imagine that we're blowing like a very big draw. And if it feels good, I would invite you to put the tongue on the roof of the mouth behind it when you exhale. We can experiment with that. So we're going to inhale from the nose, 2, 3. Exhale from the mouth, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. Inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. Inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. Inhale, 2, 3. Exhale through the mouth. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale, 2, 3. Exhale, 2, 4, 5, 6. Now, if it feels comfortable, let's try to take this rhythm up to 4, 8. So let's inhale for 4. Exhale through the mouth for 8. Inhale for 4. Exhale through the mouth for 8. Inhale for 4. Exhale through the mouth for 8. Every time we exhale, we want to invite, if we're sitting down, that we relax a little bit more on the seat, relax the muscles. Or if we're laying down, we come more into the mat or the bed we're lying on. Do a couple more. We'll inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8. And here, if we feel like it's too challenging pattern, we can go back to that 3-6 pattern. So the purpose of this is called calm is to really ground the nervous system and bring in more of a relaxation. So if we're straining too much on the inhale or exhale, we want to bring that count down and relax, straining and activating. Okay, let's go for a couple more rounds. Let's go for 4 or 3, whatever feels good to you. And then exhale for 6, 8. Inhale for 4. Exhale for 8. Inhale for 4. Exhale for 6 or 8. And I want you to keep going with that rhythm as I explain the next progression here. We're going to bring in our breath hold. So we're going to keep the 4-8 rhythm, but between the 4 inhale and 8 exhale, we're going to hold the breath for 7 seconds. Okay? And what I'll invite you to do here is your thought, or even a sensation in your body that is a little bit activated. Maybe there's some dynamic like trigger, frustrating. I actually want to invite you to presence that on the breath hold. Okay, presence that sensation, how it feels in your body. Think about that, or you bring that into your body. Hold that for 7 seconds, and then exhale and let it go. Okay, thank you. I think what I'm going to do here is cut the music off for this one because it's making my voice a little bit choppy. Okay, so we're gonna see if it gets better um, without the music to make sure you guys hear this well. Okay, so we will
It was okay for a little while, and then all of a
cut
sudden
that
it
out.
started getting real choppy.
Okay, thank you for letting me know. Yeah,
Yep.
so that way hopefully, let me see. Hopefully that's better. Okay, good. So again, with this one, we'll do our what we call 4-7-8. We're gonna inhale through 4, hold for 7, exhale for 8 in the same way. And on that 7, I'll invite you to presence that, however that represents in your body, in your mind, when we think about something that's a little bit challenging or triggering for us today. It doesn't have to be a huge event. Maybe something on a scale of 1 to 10 that's like a 5 or a 6. It's kind of on our mind. It's kind of annoying us, but it's not overwhelming. Okay, so we'll start again. We'll inhale for 2, 3, 4, and then we'll hold for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and exhale through the mouth. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll inhale through the nose. 2, 3, 4. Hold for 7. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And exhale through the mouth. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, hold, exhale. Inhale, hold, and 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 remember to presence any sensation, emotion that's a little bit triggering. And then exhale. Inhale, hold, and exhale. Inhale, hold, and exhale. We're going to need 2 more of these. We're going to inhale, 2, 3, 4. We're going to hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then we're going to exhale. We'll do one more. We'll inhale. We'll hold. And then we'll exhale. And now I want to bring your breathing back to the nose, inhaling, exhaling through the nose, like we did at the beginning. Whatever rhythm felt more comfortable. If it was 4-4 or 5-5, we can go back to that. So we'll inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. And right now it's all through the nose. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to invite you to place one or two hands on the heart as you continue this breathing rhythm. So ideally in for 5, out for 5, with a little pause in between that inhale and exhale. In 2, 3, 4, 5. Out, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I want you to bring the awareness to the heart as if I'm breathing into the heart for 5 and filling it up. And then there's a brief pause. I'm exhaling. And I notice the heart's pumping all of that nice energy to every part of my body when I exhale. So I inhale for 5. Brief pause, and then I exhale for 5. And I'm focusing on the heart space with my touch of my hand, with my conscious awareness. Noticing how the heart grows with the inhale and pumps energy out with the exhale. And here I try to come into more contact and awareness of the heart. I might notice if there is a particular temperature in that space. Some people might notice a particular color, like a yellow or a green or a pink, when I focus in on my heart space. We might even notice sort of like a texture to that area of the felt sense. And just send our breath there, allow us to go a bit deeper into awareness. See the heart moving with the breath, moving with the inhale and exhale. And what I want to gently invite here is bring to the eye of your mind, visualize a moment that you felt awe. And awe is really a mix of appreciation and gratitude. So it doesn't have to be like a huge moment in your life. Maybe it was, like for example, when a child was born, when you had a significant milestone in your life. Or maybe it was just something really simple. You noticed for the first time that your child made some art project for you without asking, or someone prepared you a cup of coffee or tea, or you saw the sunrise, or you just walked out and you saw a new day, and you just had this deep sense of gratitude and appreciation for being alive. And just use some sensory information to kind of bring that into your mind as we continue with the inhale and exhale for 5. Focus back on the heart space and try to visualize yourself in this moment. Put yourself there. Where am I? What am I doing? Who am I with? What am I wearing? What do I see? What do I hear? Maybe I feel something. And notice how it feels in your body to take yourself back to a moment of awe. And breathe that in. 5 on the inhale, 5 on the exhale. And gently let the image slip away and focus in more on the sensation. the sensation of what it feels like to be in that moment of awe in your body as you breathe into it. So in for 5, out for 5. Notice if we're able to kind of pump this energy through the heart to other spots in the body. Maybe you notice a color, maybe you notice a gold, a pink, a green, and we can kind of let it flow through other areas with the exhale. With the inhale, we fill up the heart. Allow ourselves to be with that sensation. As we gently bring our breath back to a natural rhythm in and out through the nose, we kind of let go of the counting. We just focus on nasal breathing. We allow that sensation to stay in the body. And we just start to reorient ourselves back to our own body. So we start to move our fingers, our toes. We might move the wrists and the ankles. We might adjust if we're seated, if we're lying down. We might take a second to move the pelvis or the hips or stretch out a little bit, kind of come back into that lived experience of your own body. And whenever we're ready, we can open the eyes if we had them closed. And when we open them, we're going to orient again. So we're going to pick 4 or 5 spots around the room to look around. Before we come back to the screen, if we are looking at the screen. Okay. And any other resources or movements we need to give ourselves to come back into our present moment, we will do that. Okay, so today, what did we do here? We went through an example of doing a check-in with our nervous system, assessing our nervous system state, using some foundational resources that are safe to use with any sort of resource or with any sort of nervous system state before bringing ourselves into a little bit of a breathwork sequence where we use calm breathing, which is 4-8 or 3-6 pattern, inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth. We went into a little bit of a breath hold practice, which is slightly more activating. So it's more of a form of training stress resilience. And we did a 4 on the inhale, a 7 hold, and an 8 exhale, where we're breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. Remember, for these first 2 exercises, if it's possible, when we breathe out, we exhale, it's great to put our tongue on the roof of our mouth, just behind the teeth, if it feels possible for us. And in the last exercise, we did heart coherence, which is a practice that when we start to regulate our breathing rhythm over time, it increases our heart rate variability. So it increases our level of nervous system capacity, stress resilience, and heart coherence breathing, that 5-5 rhythm, is a really good way to bring in visualizations, meditations, certain emotional states to the breath practices. When we feel like doing that. We can also just do the breathing rhythm without visualizations or with just maybe focusing on an area of our body that needs a little bit more love and attention. We can also use this practice maybe to just set an intention for our day. Breathe that intention into the heart space, right? Heart coherence is something that's been studied by the Heart Math Institute a lot for not only increasing heart rate variability, but they have special measures that they've created to basically to measure this level of coherence between like our thoughts and our heart, basically. Because what we know now is that our heart has actually more neurons than our brain. So it's kind of like this other source of intelligence in our body that we haven't really been taught how to kind of like tap into formally. We're very, very focused on our prefrontal cortex and the thinking part of our brain. And we often neglect more of this, what could be categorized as that somatic intelligence, like for the heart, for the gut, right? All the information that's held there. So this is a practice to kind of start to introduce that as well. Has multiple benefits. So this was just a little short sequence that you can use for yourself, you can use for your clients, or you can break these exercise up into different pieces. But we always want to focus on the idea that breath is really helpful. We want to approach it in a trauma-informed way and understand that if people are reactive to breathing exercises or it activates them, we don't want to panic. That's normal. That's okay. Just means that we need to get them a little bit more resourced in their nervous system first, maybe using the self-contact, using more grounding, just kind of regulating their breath at first, before we bring them into like a deeper sequence of exercises. Okay, so it's possible for them if they just need a little bit more support. Okay, awesome. Awesome. So this will be recorded so everyone can watch this back. I'd encourage you who are all, if you're here or you're watching this back, to kind of go through the sequence yourself, experiment around with this. Um, Use it as a resource as well when you need a little extra support. And if you do have questions or doubts about anything we went over today, anything we did today, of course, you can reach out. Okay, so we will do that. And let me see here. We're going to stop the recording there.